welcome to another Ultimate Fighter episode review. This is for Season 29, Episode 3, Bring in the Rhino, and I'll get to why the episode is titled that as we go along, but yeah, basically, I'm going to try and run down through as much of this as I can. No script on this, just me coming off the top of my head with some notes I have on my old OneDrive, so let's do this. So as we start, Team Ortega goes to the TUF house. Now, Team Ortega is up 2-0 by this point in the season. And Ortega and some of his assistant coaches actually go to the interview part of the TUF house room, and I honestly didn't know it was even in the TUF house. I just thought it was like in a different building or something where they did the interviews where like it's all like black behind them, there's like backlit and stuff. But yeah, there was Ludwig, who had won in the previous episode, was doing an interview, and Ortega and the other coaches crashed it and like gave him a hug and congratulated him. Which I've never seen before in, like, especially with this format of the Ultimate Fighter. That was just really nice. I just really wanted to bring that up because I have a lot of nice things to say about this episode because there's just some nice stuff going on. So, yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up though because I like that, and it proves that Brian Ortega is just he's just a really good dude at the end of it. So, yeah, really cool that he did that, and the look on Ludwig's face, like, he looks so happy that was happening. So. Yeah. Next up we have the background on the fighters. So Ryder Newman, we find out that he got the nickname Rhino because he went to a frat party at college and they misheard him saying his name of Ryder, so everyone thought his name was Rhino. And it's a weird origin for a fighter nickname, I have to admit. But yeah, he sort of lives in, I think he sort of lives alone in Vegas. He has a lot of maids who like clean up like this sort of residential house he lives in. I don't really remember how that part goes fully, but good on him that he's got all that for him. I don't remember if he says if he has like a wife or girlfriend or anything at home. But you know what? He's just a cool guy, so really happy with that. As for Tresean's background, it's a bit different. I think he said he grew up in Carolina and currently lives in Georgia. He has a wife and a son, I think it is. I think it's a son. And he's adorable. He's so cute. Yeah, Tresean actually, like, his background's a lot more harrowing. He didn't really know his dad. Like, his dad went away when he was quite young. And by the time that Tresean was 10, his mother fell into a lot of addictions, and I did feel quite a lot for Tresean after this. I know, like, you know, sob stories are a thing that are meant to sort of, like, garner sympathy, but I think it's easy to believe with something like The Ultimate Fighter, because these are people who not only have to deal with, you know, fighting the opposite team, possibly fighting each other if it comes to that, but also, like, the mental stress, and having that kind of background combined with that mental stress can be harrowing, so I have to give Tresean extra points for being quite the tough dude that he is. I do have this segment which isn't really connected to the fight or the weigh-in between, called Nice Ryder. Like, that's the note that it's just called Nice Ryder. So, I'll explain what I mean by that. So, there's a point where, while they're training, I forgot to bring up prep. Newman is more focused on wrestling because he's the better wrestler. Tresean's focus is a bit more on striking, but also on the counter to the takedowns. So, there you go. That's stuff I thought I'd throw in quick. But yeah, basically, while Tresean is training, one of the people on Team Ortega is Miles Hunsinger, who is a training partner with Ryder Newman at Extreme Couture, where they train. I think it's Extreme Couture. Is it American Top Team? It's one of the two. I forget which one. Tresean trains at the other one. But yeah, so Tresean was actually, as he was training with Miles, he asked Miles if he could get any details on it to better prepare for the fight. And Miles, because he's just being a good dude, is like, look, I like you and everything, but I'm not going to try and like sell out my buddy here, you know, because we're training partners. And Tresean was like, all right, that's cool. And I'm glad that he wasn't like, what, you're on the same team, you know, you should give me the details. I'm glad he didn't do that. I'm just really happy he was like, you know what, it's fine. It might be fun to fight blind, you know. And I was like, yeah. That's just really cool of you, Tresean. I mean, kind of a D-bag move to ask about it in the first place. Smart, but D-bag move. However, really glad you didn't push the issue. So, yeah, that is something I just rather quite liked, so we're going to move on again. Tresean and Ryder do have a fair bit of banter between each other, even to the point where at the weigh-ins, Tresean does get a bit in Ryder's face. But like, it's nothing like too confrontational. It just like really gets so close to him, sort of talks a bit of trash to him. Not a whole lot. Ryder's like, where did that come from? But the two did like handshake and smile at the end of it, and they do seem to be good buddies. So you know, and they even say as much in a bit earlier before this, where they're all like sat around a table in the TUF house, where they're just like, you know what, we're good friends, but it is just business. Like, they both agree on that, and I'm really glad they do, because it allows me to talk about the fight, which I did spoil for myself before I actually watched it, so I know who won going in, but it was still a fight that happened, and I did watch it, so I've got to talk about it. So we get to the actual fight between Tresean Gore representing Team Ortega and Ryder Newman representing Team Volkanovski. And it's fairly easy going for Ryder at first, believe it or not. He's landing a lot of really good counter rights to counter a lot of Tresean's more like sweeping stuff, but Tresean, he finds the leg kicks so early and the body kicks, and he's landing a lot to the body like throughout the entire fight. Ryder, he's rocked a lot by these kicks, especially some head ones that connect, and while he's landing some really good counter rights, it's when he goes for a takedown that's sort of a problem for him. And Tresean, who, like, his wrestling is almost never mentioned. Like, it's briefly sort of glossed over during his fight prep with the rest of Team Ortega, but we don't really get to see him talk about his wrestling a lot. And it turns out his defense, his wrestling defense at least, is really goddamn good. Like, he doesn't get taken down even fully once. I mean, he sort of like slips a bit on the first takedown, but he gets back up quite quickly because he's against the cage. So it was a very, very smart fight that Tresean. It was very, very smart of Tresean to have fought that way. So yeah, he like keeps stuffing the takedowns for the most part, keeps like holding onto that wizard, keeps himself against the cage, keeps Ryder from being able to take him down and meant anything serious, and he like pushes him away and keeps landing a lot of strikes. Some of the more desperation stuff that Mitroposo sort of went for against Ludwig in the previous episode, at least I think that's what happened, but yeah, Tresean, like, you know, he managed to hold his own really well against Ryder's wrestling, and Ryder has like a good drive to his takedowns too. He just couldn't fully lock one on, like, throughout the entire fight, really. So yeah, round one is fairly close because Ryder did get some good shots in, but Tresean just kept pressing the action, kept pressuring Ryder. And yeah, just like kept going with the leg kicks and the body kicks and kept him away, kept him at a good distance and fought really smart. So we move on to round two. Round two is very much second verse same as the first. You know, it's just like Tresean really good counters. He lands some really good hands in this one especially, but it's his kicks again setting them up really well, and his leg kicks are a huge factor because, like, if you land enough leg kicks against a wrestler, they are going to be a lot more hesitant to try and take you down, and Ryder was. He does still go for a couple in round two. Again, nothing fully lands. And Tresean is amazing with his counters, like, just keeps holding on to the head. Doesn't really get taken down at all, like, really good counters to it, and Ryder is getting a bit more desperate with it. Ryder does still land some good hands, but Tresean is getting a lot better at the exchanges, keeping him at a distance, throwing the kicks, being a lot more aggressive, in the clinch especially, and eventually the round comes to an end, and the judges score a unanimous decision for Tresean, and I absolutely agree. I think it's a bit closer than it might imply, but, you know, especially because Ryder was landing quite well with the right hands. But it was just, you know, a pretty solid, fairly simple back-and-forth fight, especially for one that ended in a unanimous decision. So, yeah, it was a good win for Tresean, and another one, 3-0 so far for Team Ortega. My team, I'm on Team Ortega for the season, by the way. And, yeah, really good stuff from Tresean. He showed a lot of his game, and, again, the two were just quite friendly after the fight was over, so yeah, that's about it for the episode. I'll go to the outro now, I suppose. So that will about do it for this episode review. Again, just really solid episodes. Probably my least favourite fight of the season so far, but still really good for what it was. I really liked the bit with the interview at the start of the episode. I don't know why I did, I just did. And you know what, Ryder, Newman, Tresean, Gore, they were fairly entertaining as well, so let's see, what's going to be next? Probably a Fight of the Night review tomorrow if there is one to review. If there's not, I will hopefully get a Music of the Week episode done for the stuff from last week. And then at some point after that, the very brief history of Andrew WK for backtracking, the full episode of Andrew WK for backtracking, PPW versus AVW, Maybe a top 10 list, maybe a game review. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do after those. So, another Music of the Week episode. You know, it's all the possibilities, so many. So I'll see you all for that quite soon. And my cat is sleeping. I'm glad he's ignoring how loud I can be. So I'll see you all possibly tomorrow, failing that Tuesday at the usual time for my streams. So as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.